Let me start off with some introductions. We have two highly experienced experts presenting today, and both coincidentally used to work at the same company. They have something in common, and they are both Cisco certified internetwork experts, CCIE designation. That's a highly sought after designation. And we have Ahmed Al-Sharif, who is a senior technical marketing engineer with VMware, and Mike Chase, our senior VP Solutions Engineering. If you're not aware of it, VMware and AireSpring have a very strong technology partnership. VMware is a very strategic partner to AireSpring. In fact, our SASE solution and current roadmap and future roadmap is highly dependent and highly interwoven with the SASE the VMware SASE platform. So they're a very key partner for us, and they have very good technology. We would not partner with something that we did not think was the best of the best. So we're really excited to have this partnership in place. Let me tell you a little more about Ahmed. He has over 25 years experience in various technologies and multiple lines of business at prominent technology vendors. And his experience has evolved his vision into a broader understanding of how technology shapes our lives and affects businesses. And as a senior solution architect, he helped customers for many years to navigate their transformation goals. And as you know, SASE is largely about transformation. And so Ahmed has a lot of experience here. Now, then as security and networking businesses moved more towards the cloud, he assumed this role of technical marketing engineer at VMware's SASE business unit. And he also participates and has participated in developing the SASE business strategy using this unique architecture from VMware and its underlying services. Mike Chase, as many of you already know Mike, you might say he needs no introduction, but Mike also brings over 25 years experience with him to his role here in many industries and technologies like telecom, VoIP networking, data center, cloud services, SD-WAN security. You ask a question, he can probably answer it, as you've probably seen on the boot camps. And he's worked at designing various complex solutions at companies such as Wells Fargo, IBM, Mobil Oil, Union Oil, Capitol Records, AT&T, Broadcom, and Experian and DIN Cloud. So with that being said, I'm going to move the slide to the agenda so you'll see what we plan to present to you today. Ahmed is going to talk first, and he's going to cover business transformation with SASE. He's going to talk specifically about VMware SASE solution and building the solution in conjunction with AireSpring. Then he's going to cover some use cases, specifically, how companies can benefit from SASE today and how you as a trusted advisor can represent SASE to your existing and new clients. He's going to sum it up with some key takeaways. And then Mike will step in to go over some more specific technical differentiators that AireSpring has, and especially in conjunction with VMware. So I'm going to turn the mouse and keyboard over to you, Ahmed, and you should be able to move the slides and start your presentation.
Thanks a lot. Thanks, Ellen. Hello, everyone. As we know, the buying power has been shifted or moved from the IT department to the business unit within the customer organizations. And that's why we always heard about the advice to sell outside of the IT, sell to the business people, because when you sell to the business people, you sell faster and you sell more because they are the one controlling the budget. But the challenge has always been, how do I do that? And I was exactly in your position, trying to sell technical or technologies to people who are buying software and worry about the business outcomes. And in order to do that, you have to do and understand two things. First one, you have to understand what the business people are trying to achieve, and then match what you are proposing from product and services to what they are trying to achieve. And if you do that, you are able to start and build what we call it value-based conversation. And that's what's going to allow you to sell outside of the IT. Now, if I take this theory and apply it to us today, VMware and AireSpring, I can see that the number one goal for our customers' business people is the business transformation. Everybody from the customer side, CIO, CISO, and CEO, they are trying to transform their business, make their business better. And from our side, we're proposing SASE as a service to be an enabler for that business transformation. And if we achieve that, we will be able to achieve multiple things. First, we will be differentiating ourselves from others. This will put us ahead of the competitors, and most importantly, it will allow you to sell outside of the IT. So let's see how we can do that together. So in the beginning, let me explain what business transformation is, and then move to how SASE is related to the business transformation, and then technically explain what SASE is from the architecture perspective and component perspective. And finally, I will go to the use cases and how you can sell it. So what is a business transformation? In a very simple word, this is changing the way customer conduct business. And this can come with different forms based on the line of business. It can be an improving of the product and services, creating new ordering channels, improving collaboration with the customers, all of these things, and there's tons of examples of the transformation. Why is transformation essential? First, it keeps the business going. We know that the business is going backward because the competitors are always improving themselves. So it's essential to keep the business going. It puts the customer ahead of the competitors. So you're talking to your customer about something very fundamental and very important for their business, and it expands their business. So there is no question how essential and important the transformation for any organization. Now, before I move, apply this to us, to VMware/AireSpring. What we are doing today, we are elevating our offering, services offering, from selling a component, SD-WAN component, managed services, and on-prem or cloud security managed services to something higher than that, to a SASE cloud consumption model. That by itself is kind of transformation. So we are applying the transformation for our services offering to improve our services, differentiate our services from everybody else. Now, the most important part of this, we need to understand how SASE is related to the business transformation. We know that no one can do any kind of transformation without embracing a new cloud applications. And those cloud applications, they can be a cloud native, or they can be a result of a modernized legacy application that the customer had in the data center and they moved it to the cloud. And then we know that the cloud is a distributed architecture by nature. So anything cloud is distributed architecture. The distributed architecture poses two problems for the transformation process. The first one that we know and everybody is focusing on is the security problem. So the security is the #1 challenge that everybody is focusing on when it comes to the transformation, because I had my data center hosting my applications, and now my application is everywhere. Could be in the data center, in one cloud, multiple cloud. The users also who are accessing this application are outside as well. So securing an architecture, distributed architecture, is really a challenging process. The second challenge that most of the people forget at the beginning when they do transformation, and they remember it later on, sometimes when it is too late, is the application performance. And the application performance is extremely important for the application transformation in general, because it is the only thing that the users who are accessing and consuming the applications are going to see. The user does not see any of the security underlay. He doesn't know that his session has gone through ZTNA, or his session has gone through a web security that terminated the session, decrypted, looked inside it for malware, and encrypted the session again and send it to the final destination. The user does not see none of that. The user only see and judge the transformation based on the application performance. So it's extremely important to address both of these challenges when it comes to the transformation together in one solution. This is where the SASE comes from. SASE gives you both SD-WAN and security together as a consumption model that fixes and the two problems together for the transformation. This is how the SASE is related to the business transformation. So if you want to start a business transformation related product or services to your customer, this is how you started. This is how you lead the conversation with SASE. Why SASE? Because it helps you, Mr. Customer, to solve the challenges that transformation is bringing to the table, security and application performance. You don't want to fix the security problem because you are moving to the cloud and compromise the application performance. So SASE is going to give you both of them on the same time. Before I get started and talk about SASE components and SASE architecture, it's extremely important for everybody to understand where SASE came from. Who generated SASE? Who brought SASE to the market? And what is the relation between SASE and the things that we had in the past? What's the relationship between SASE and the things that's going to happen in the future? So when you talk to your customer, you'll be able to answer questions such as, why do I need to consider SASE? Why not SSE? Because this is another model that we're going to see as well. Can't I buy these components without buying SASE? All of these questions will not be answered until you know the history. And in this chart, I have the technology on this side and the time over this. In 2008, mainly, or before 2008, there was no cloud. Everything was legacy, networking, security, and compute. And then slowly we start getting some of these compute, light security services in the cloud offered by multiple companies. And then fast forward to 2014, we got this brilliant SD-WAN that really transformed the networking that we know. And SD-WAN made it easy for a lot of organizations to move applications to the cloud, because now it's easy for the networking to address that kind of movement. But as the SD-WAN is doing all of the fancy and the nice things that you all know, it created an interesting situation for enterprise customers. Now, most of the enterprise customers end up in having more applications outside of the organization in the cloud than the inside of the organization, inside the data center. They have also more users outside than the inside, yet they are connecting the user who's outside to the application that is also outside using the data center. And the reason for that is the data center still hosting the security component that everybody's still using. So Gartner in 2019 said, we have to join SD-WAN and security together in one consumption model in the cloud. This is what they call it SASE, Secure Access Surface Edge, that has the SD-WAN and security, so we can avoid backhauling the traffic to the data center. If I zoom inside the SASE, I'll find like two types of surfaces: the networking in the left side, security in the right side. The most important networking component is the SD-WAN, and the others are optional. And the security side, the four components are ZTNA, Cloud Web Security, CASB, and Firewall as a Service. Now, this integrated solution is the idea of the SASE. Some people think SASE is a component, but if you look at these components, none of them is new. When SASE came, all of these components are pre-exist. So what is really SASE? SASE is this integrated model. If you don't have these components as an integrated solution, then you are not going to get SASE's benefits. You can have them from multiple companies, multiple implementation, different ways, but you can't call this SASE until you have it an integrated solution. And this is what VMware is actually adding to the picture, that integrated solution. The SD-WAN is working with the ZTNA, Cloud Web Security, all together integrated in the background, so the administrator does not need to touch every single one of them and deal with it individually. In 2021, Gartner also extracted the security component from the SASE and start calling SSE. So the secure surface edge is a subset of the SASE. It's not something new, it's not a replacement for SASE, but as you can see here, it addresses only the security challenges, while the SASE, also considering the security, is also considering the application performance because it has the SD-WAN. So back to the same question that we asked in the beginning, if you're doing transformation, you have two challenges, the security and the application performance. If you want to deal the application the application security only, then you are not solving all problems. You might end up in application performance problem. So SASE is the true transformation enabler for the business transformation. Now think about this integrated solution when you add the value add of AireSpring as a managed services on top of that. You get the best of the best that you can take to the customer as an enabler for their business transformation. You'll be able to achieve and talk about no operation. If you see the title of this slide is no operation. No operation means it's a word that is mainly used by the hyperscalers. AWS, Google GCP, and Microsoft, they are also going behind this world because they are telling their customers, the more cloud services we give you, the less operation you have in your site, so you can focus in transforming your business, focusing in your own business. If you do this with AireSpring, an integrated solution from VMware, you are also doing the same exact thing. Now, this is today. To understand the future, you need to understand what is happening in the future, how SASE is going to be related to the future. You don't want the customer to feel like SASE is one thing that I can buy today and then tomorrow I have to forklift or go somewhere else or do something else. What we know that is coming for sure in the future, we know that the 5G is coming. And what 5G is going to give us? High-speed connectivity between the 5G client all the way to the tower. But if I need to send the data from the 5G tower using the same internet backbone all the way to the data center, then I'm not leveraging the high-speed connectivity between the tower and the 5G client. So in this case, a new technology was born that called edge compute, which is the technology that takes the compute from the data center or from the internet and brings it all the way to the tower as an example for the edge compute. So the compute will be closer to the users. So the high-speed connectivity that is given by the 5G tower will be utilized because the compute is in the same location. And we see like a lot of hyperscalers like AWS introducing something called wavelength that was in 2020 or 2019 to build their infrastructure on 5G towers with one of the service providers. The reason for that is because the performance, application performance is the future. Everybody is focusing on the application performance because the transformation that is happening on the market. So in the future, as we can see here, after in this year or in the future, the compute will join this model, and it could be something like multi-cloud edge. It could be any other name, but we know that this multi-cloud edge has multiple services in it. The same SASE services. In addition to that, we have the multi-cloud and edge compute. And this is where actually VMware is focusing. We focus in this big picture of delivering all of these components integrated together with AireSpring as a managed services, and that's the future of the technology. We are not compromising anything when we take our customers to SASE today. We are taking them to SASE today to improve the application performance and give them the security in the cloud. In addition to that, anything that improves the application performance in the future, like the cloud, the edge compute, will be part of our solution. This is why VMware and AireSpring solution is really unique in the market. Now let's move and see how VMware can build this architecture separately. Like what's the architecture, how the architecture looks like from a VMware perspective, and then we go and see how AireSpring and VMware build it together. So technically, I would like to start with what how Gartner defines the SASE. Gartner defined it as SD-WAN plus SSE. So that's pretty much Gartner definition. SD-WAN, which you see here in the left side, and SSE services with secure surface edge model that includes these four components. So those four components, secure web gateway, CASB, ZTNA, zero trust network access, and firewall as a service, those are the SSE services. When you add SD-WAN to them, then you get SASE. Remember, SD-WAN is the one going to fix the application performance, and the SSE is the one that's going to join all of the security components in one consumption model and give you the benefit of that integrated solution. Now, let's see how technically VMware built that solution. So I would like to start from a simple diagram that represents most of the customer. What you see here is a simple data center with all of the security component in it and some of the applications. The customer also, because of the brilliant SD-WAN, he was able to move some of the applications to the cloud. And he has users from all over the places, branch offices, users working from home, users working from anywhere. Yet he's backhauling all the traffic back to the data center over site-to-site SD-WAN or VPN. Also with SD-WAN is improving the traffic to the backhaul, but still it's a backhaul traffic. The reason for that, because they want to utilize the security services that they have in place. They don't want to replace it. They want to apply the company's policies on this application traffic before actually sending the application traffic into the local application or to the cloud. That's the main reason why companies are still backhauling the traffic to the data center. Now, this architecture has a lot of problems. The jitter, delay, happening, all of these things causing a lot of application performance problems. So SASE started from this problem. SASE started as a solution to avoid this backhauling problem, and then providing everything as an integrated solution. So obviously, the solution will start from avoiding this backhauling altogether. So there will be no backhauling traffic back to the data center. And instead of doing that, we are taking these components in the data center and virtually provide them under one construction called SASE point of presence. And of course, this is the cloud services. You find a lot of POPs around the world. VMware owns 150 SASE POPs, and we can connect to partner POPs as well. So you see that POP representing all of the security services that used to be in the data center, and now you are selling it to the customer as a consumption model and as a managed services. That's the beauty of the solution. Now, technically, the users will not connect to the data center like before. They are going to this SASE POP first, and the fundamental service that is going to be the first step in adding and implementing SASE is going to be the authentication process. Once the user is authenticated, then the traffic can go to the final destination. If you do this, then this is what they call it zero trust network access approach. So zero trust network access approach is the fundamental service that SASE brings to the table that different from normal connections that the user used to have in the past when they get connected to the network. And then when they send the traffic to the application identifies them and authorizes them if they are allowed or not. Now, the networking, before they go to the application, is doing this process, the authentication process. And this is the theory of the ZTNA. Now, let's move from this theory and see how SASE POP is going to, or SASE in general, is going to implement ZTNA and other services as well. So technically, you need to get the traffic to the SASE POP. Now, we know virtually I have to go to the SASE POP before going to any other application. And this is how traffic starts. I go to the network, I go to the security component, and then if they authorize my connection, I go to the application. Now, the SD-WAN will be the devices that's going to take our traffic from the data center or from the users to the SASE POP. And we can have also a virtual SASE component in the infrastructure as a service that's also bringing the traffic to the SASE POP. If you see here, that's a fundamental way of connectivity. Connectivity is impacting the application performance. The customer will ask you a fundamental question. You are asking me to avoid backhauling my traffic to the data center, and you want me to send my traffic to your SASE POP. How are you going to do that? If you are replacing his SD-WAN backhauling with another SD-WAN from the branch, from the data center to the SASE POP, then you are not compromising the application performance. The connectivity through SD-WAN to the SASE POP is a fundamental differentiation point for our solution, VMware/AireSpring. That's the whole architecture. You are not compromising any application performance because you're asking the customer to move from a security in the data center to the security in the cloud. So that's a fundamental point that you need to remember all the time. You are not compromising the application performance because you are providing security in the cloud. This is different than every single other solution in the market. Everybody in the market, they have a lot of security services in the cloud, yet they are asking the customers, even with SD-WAN devices, to go IPsec tunnel to the cloud. When you go IPsec tunnel to the cloud, you are killing the application performance. And this is not what the VMware and AireSpring are doing. We're going SD-WAN also to the cloud, and that's the major point that I would like you to remember. The other thing is the SD-WAN client can be another component that connects users to the same POP. So it's not necessarily to have SD-WAN edge physical device all over the places. Some people, they can't afford that, or it's not practical, so they can go with the SD-WAN client. And then as part of the solution, if the customer is worried about the user's performance, because any traffic flow changes. If you avoid the traffic backhauling to the data center and now you're sending it to the cloud, how do you know if the user is happy or not? You want the architecture to tell you if the user is happy, application is performing before the user discovers that. And this is where what we are adding to the solution, which is the user experience monitoring component that we call it ENI. And this ENI gives us the view of what this user is actually experiencing from their side. And this is extremely important because you are telling the customer that I can see what the users are actually doing, what the application performance looks like, if they are happy or not happy, and I can fix the problems before the users start complaining about the productivity. Remember, in transformation, the user who's accessing the application is the one who's generating the business, is the one who's generating the money for the customer. So his happiness or satisfaction when he's using these applications is an extremely important point that you can talk to the customer about it. If you are providing the SD-WAN to the cloud, plus monitoring it, the application performance using ENI, then you are complete the idea of why your SASE solution is different, why the customer should adopt it and buy it from you. Now, we finished or pretty much considered every single component in SASE. We talked about the SD-WAN, the one that takes the traffic to the cloud, and we talked about the SASE PUB that hosts all of the security components, mainly the 4 components that we showed in the beginning. Now, next step, we are talking about the future of this using the edge compute. And edge compute can come in multiple different places. Like I give you the example of the 5G tower as an example of the edge, but the edge can be this SD-WAN device that you see here. It's considered to be an edge, and technically you can move some of the applications or part of the applications to this edge because it has a Kubernetes stack. So this can be an offer that AireSpring can offer it in the future, where the customer can feel, hey, one of my application component, because this is part of the modernization process, it will make more sense if I move this part closer to the user. Then the edge device will be an answer for that. You can run it on the edge device, AireSpring can manage it for you, and that will give the customer a huge advantage where he can process all of the communication from the clients into that edge device. Now, a good example for that is a small AI or machine learning or a machine that collects a lot of IoT devices data. You don't want to send all of this data all the way to the data center and process them all in the data center. You can process them in the edge device and send only the correlated data or the result back to the data center. There are a lot of examples why the edge compute is extremely important for the application performance. Now, this is what we say about VMware solution in general. Like, it improves the application performance, it lowers the operation expenses. It's a cloud services, so you don't have to worry about scaling it up and down. You don't have to worry about investing in on-prem solution and worry about the scalability of that solution. And I would like to talk more about on-prem versus cloud solution in general. Like, if you buy an on-prem security component and you deploy it as a customer all over the places, at any time, if you need to upgrade that, then that investment has to be forklifted. If you provisioned like 1 gig firewall on-prem and then you need 2 gig, you have to change it. If you are not utilizing that 1 gig, then you are paying more than what you need. By having everything centralized in the cloud, you are avoiding all of these issues. You pay as you go, one location that gives you all of the security that you need with the scalability, yet you are going to it with an SD-WAN. So there is no compromise to the application and all security in the cloud. Okay. And of course, with this, you can also talk about the future edge compute with the customer. So the customer feel happy that he's still connected with the best of the best today, and the future is not eliminated. You can have the future as well. So this is VMware solution, SASE solution. Now let's move to the VMware/AireSpring and how we build it together to provide the value to our customers. And actually from here, I can take you to the use cases and how you sell it to the customers. So VMware and AireSpring better together, building SASE. So starting from VMware SASE, we have the SASE PUB here. It has multiple components. If I zoom in inside this SASE PUB, what I'm going to see is the following. First of all, I see the VMware Cloud Orchestrator, which is the centralized management that manages all of the components. Having only one management to manage the SD-WAN, the security component in one location, plus the ENI, all together under one umbrella of management, that by itself is a huge advantage. You don't want the customer or your operator to jump into multiple management stations to manage the SASE component. Remember, SASE's benefits is all about integrated component, and the first thing that you need it to be integrated is the management, and this is what you are getting from VMware solution. Now, the other services here, the Cloud Web Security, Secure Access, and ENI, not all of them are available. The Secure Access is still not available from AireSpring, but generally, those components are managed by the VCO, and then the VCG, which is the VMware Cloud Gateway, is the one managing the connectivity to the SD-WAN devices. So you terminate these devices in the VCG, and then you run these services on them and manage them from one location. This is what the PUP looks like from the inside. Now, technically, moving to the AireSpring infrastructure, what we can see here is we see another VCG, an AireSpring, that really terminates the session from the SD-WAN customers. And you see also another cloud services that's not part of SASE that AireSpring might offer, like infrastructure as a service or something in the future that's not part of the SASE. The way how we connect this is the following. When you sell an SD-WAN device, the traffic from that SD-WAN device now comes to your VCG, comes technically to the VCG. The reason why I'm showing this architecture, I want you to, when you go to the customer to propose SD-WAN or to propose SASE solution, I want you to understand what is happening in the background. I want you to be part of the solution, know exactly where the traffic is going, how the traffic is moving from your infrastructure to VMware infrastructure, what is actually happening to you before the customer, so you can explain it and pitch it to the customer in the right way. Now, those are two separate infrastructure, VMware, SASE PUP, and AireSpring. The only thing that we need to connect is this thing, which we call it NNI, which is network to network interface. This is a high-speed connectivity between our VCG PUP, that's in our PUP, and the VCG and AireSpring network. Just by having that connection, all of the services that we have in the SASE PUP will be part of the AireSpring infrastructure immediately, without any new software, without any new hardware. Everything is high speed. Do we compromise the high speed connectivity from the users to the cloud applications or to the data center applications once we have this interconnect? No. The SD-WAN still bring the traffic to the VCG in high optimized per packet. And then we have the multi 10 gig connections between us for the traffic to go to the application, to the services, and comes back to the AireSpring. No compromising of the application performance at all with this kind of architecture. Keep in mind, SASE is all about integration and architecture. It's not a component. If you don't have the right architecture, you're not getting the benefit of these components. If you are buying these components without integration solution, then you are not getting the benefit. And the main fundamental advantage of the SASE solution is the architecture itself. When you look at this architecture of the AireSpring and VMware, you have this connectivity that does not compromise the application performance, then you get what you need from the security in the SASE PUP, and this is how you solve the transformation problem. Technically, you can sell this to multiple users using the following use cases. Number one, you can approach the customer who's already SD-WAN customer, and his traffic will be like this. It will come to your VCG, go up in this NNI connection to the VMware SASE PUP, get the benefits that you have from the SASE security components, and then the traffic comes back to the AireSpring, so you can still sell the other services that we don't control. So in this case, AireSpring is in a total control of the traffic flow. You get the services that you need from the SASE PUP, the traffic comes back to the same location, so you can get the benefit of adding extra services from AireSpring before the traffic goes back to the data center, customer's data center, or to the cloud. That's use case number one. What you are telling the customer, you are opted in SD-WAN, Mr. Customer, and whoever opted in to have an SD-WAN as a managed services, most likely will opt in to buy SASE as a managed services as well. Because if you look at SASE, it has more component than just this SD-WAN. So the potential customers all of the existing SD-WAN customers are potential SASE customers. Because if somebody goes to AireSpring for a managed services SD-WAN and he feels the great things that VMware and the managed services from AireSpring into that SD-WAN, now expanding this will be a lot easier than selling it to a new customer, because the customer already having that as a managed service is just an expansion for what he has today, and everything will be provided as a service. Now, this does not eliminate the opportunity to sell SASE to non-SD-WAN customers, or to the MPLS customer, or even to non-VMware SD-WAN customers that you may have. So the traffic will come over the MPLS to your infrastructure and will follow the same exact thing. It will go up and down. The point here that I'm making is SASE is a group of components, including SD-WAN and security services. It doesn't matter if you sell these components individually or you sell it at all as an integrated solution. When you sell it at one piece, like use case number one, that's the best of the best. But if the customer is still not SD-WAN customer, if the customer is still MPLS, he's not into the SD-WAN, that does not eliminate the opportunity to sell them the cloud web security and all of the security services in the cloud over high-speed connectivity without compromising the application performance, and give it to the customer as a first step in building their SASE. And that's use case number two. The following two use cases, 3 and 4, are actually not yet implemented in AireSpring, but those are the differentiation points that you can have once they are provided by AireSpring. The first one is the AireSpring services to VMware remote users. We have a service here called Secure Access in our SASE POP. This Secure Access is a replacement for users' VPN because it terminates the session in the cloud without going back to the data center and manage it. So this is one of the solutions that we have in the cloud. So the traffic can be terminated in VMware SASE POP and technically go over this NNI link to the AireSpring infrastructure, and then you can sell extra services from AireSpring to this traffic before it goes back to the data center or to the internet. So having this integrated solution allows both of us, VMware and AireSpring, to sell our services at all time. Number 4, this is one of the major differentiation point of VMware solution over everybody on the market, is this SD-WAN client that we just acquired a few months ago. This SD-WAN client gives you the ability to start a full mesh direct SD-WAN with ZTNA between the clients. Imagine you have another client on the other side, and you have an SD-WAN direct connectivity between a client to client. There are tons of use cases why this is super important. First of all, it's a unique offering. Second, it gives you an optimized connectivity between the clients directly without going anywhere, and with the ZTNA, Zero Trust Network Access. So it has an authentication process as part of it. I have a lot of customers where they go to the cloud security without considering the application performance. One of them in Australia, he has a lot of contact center agents and their supervisors sent to work from home because of the pandemic. When they start working from home, the clients can't communicate directly. So their traffic has to go to the data center back and forth. That kills the application performance. And when they moved to the cloud security, they did not think about client-to-client direct communication. The cloud security that they went to and they choose was not allowing client-to-client security with security to be communicated. That's because of the ZTNA, how the ZTNA is implemented. Now with the ZTNA client, the client can communicate directly without compromising the traffic flow. If the supervisor wants to talk to an agent or agent wants to talk to another agent, they are talking to each other over a voice over IP channel between them without going anywhere else. That's the best of the best from a connectivity perspective. Now, this client can also be implemented in the server side, where you can have it in one server or multiple servers together, and this allows the client to establish also a virtual SD-WAN tunnel back to the application. What's the use case here? You can have a third-party user with an SD-WAN client accessing only one application in the organizations. This is different than giving a third-party VPN access and then worry about where he can go in the network. There are a lot of use cases, other use cases that you can extract from this infrastructure. But what I would like to say about this infrastructure, it's like your go-to-market message. Mr. Customer, I'm giving you all security services that you need in the cloud without compromising the application performance. That's your go-to-market message. This is what the customer would like to hear. I'm going to security in the cloud because I love it. Cloud is better than anything else, but I'm not compromising my application performance, because VMware and AireSpring value add together as a managed services will take care of that. My traffic flow will not be compromised. I can go SD-WAN to the cloud all the way and come back to the cloud with SD-WAN all the time, and that's what's going to preserve the application performance. So no hardware or software needed to connect AireSpring and VMware. Sorry. And this is multi-tenant solution, so you can sell it to as much as you want, as many customers as you want. Cross-services selling, you can sell VMware services or AireSpring services, does not eliminate your total control because the traffic comes back to you all the time. And of course, client to client in the future, there's AireSpring still working with VMware to allow this to be a use case as well. Finally, I would like to leave you with some takeaways. SASE is an architecture, it's not a product that you sell. Some people think it's a product, but it's an architecture. Lead with SASE to start a value-based conversation with the business transformation, for business transformation. You can sell an individual SASE component separately to build SASE architecture over time. It's not necessarily to sell it all at once. Then you can sell SASE to all existing customers, non-SD-WAN, MPLS, using SD-WAN client to sell SASE for or SD-WAN to customers with no branches. That's also in the future with AireSpring. With SASE, you can sell services to the business people outside of the IT people. With that, I would like to give it to Mike to continue with the other thing. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Ahmed. Here we go.
All right, Ellen. There we go. All right, perfect. So, what's the AireSpring advantage all about anyway? Well, as some of you may know, and this comes directly from our CEO, Avi Lons, our mission is to delight our customers by providing exceptional personalized service, helping them connect and communicate effortlessly. So let's take a look. How do we do that? So me control here. No, there you go. Are you gonna move the slides on, or should I?
I can move the mic, but I can switch to you if you want.
Oh, good. I'll have you move them. I'll just say next slide. So let's take a look. How do we do that? Well, we're a one-stop shop. Now worldwide, we're here to help you grow, and we do that by offering you many carriers, many technologies, but one channel team, one quote, one network, one company, one point of contact, one bill, basically one responsible vendor. And we have a vast portfolio of products, extremely competitive prices, as you guys know. Next slide. Along with those products, we include services. So the team that I have worldwide has a lot of route switch experience. As you saw at the beginning of the presentation, Ahmed and I are actually both CCIEs, Cisco route switch CCIEs. Voice and data center experience, so consulting with us helps, showcase that expertise that all of you bring to the table yourself, as well as by recommending us. Many of our customers are technical, as you know, and in recognition of that, we're happy to give out read-write access on request, while retaining the ability to have us do it all, if you want us to, as a co-managed service. We also recognize that our customers already have internet, and once they plug into our SD-WAN box and sign a letter of authorization, LOA, will now become the point of contact to automatically open a trouble ticket. We put a lot of automation in, by the way, but open a trouble ticket and work to a resolution with that third-party provider. Here in the USA, that's free. Internationally, we charge a small fee. That's a great service, right? Because everybody's got internet, they're gonna plug it into the box. You don't to buy all your circuits from us. As a super carrier aggregator, we give you a lot of choices. Those choices include private circuits, LTE, fixed wireless, satellite. Literally, any public or private circuit works great with VMware SD-WAN. We also offer direct connectivity to clouds, data centers, and SaaS providers with full QoS, quality of service, QoE, which is now kind of the SD-WAN term, quality of experience, end-to-end. Next slide, Ellen. Currently, we sell DIA, or direct internet access, in over 190 countries worldwide. And what's even better, next slide, Ellen, we have a GPN, or global private network, that is all 10 gigabit or higher links, fully redundant, and meshed across 4 continents with 23 POPs, or on-ramps and off-ramps, as I like to call them. And you buy the bandwidth you need at each on-ramp and off-ramp, and you can start off with as little as 10 megabits per second. What this means is that you can have as many in-country SD-WAN boxes as you please, and they will go full mesh and use internet directly between themselves, and including even mobile users with the new mobile client that's coming, as Ahmed pointed out. But when you head out globally, traffic can automatically leverage our GPN to transit between countries and continents. The network's fast, it's flexible, dynamic, and extremely cost-effective. One customer remarked we are literally 1/5 the price of our competitors. So when you're spending $100 with them, you're spending $20 with us. And trust me, you're getting a much better experience. Next slide, Ellen. The flexibility in the network allows us to create unique products like PIOT, Premium Internet Access to and from China. We're one of 15 countries authorized in the world to bypass the Great Wall of China for our customers. So in this scenario, a global auto parts manufacturer, for example, and others, asked us to give them an American IP address in China, bypass the firewall, the Great Firewall of China, and connect them to American internet in Los Angeles. We did it. But this is just one of 1,000 scenarios that, armed with a dynamically routed network, a global network, and SD-WAN from VMware, we can take all and even subsets of traffic down to individual applications if needed and prioritize, deprioritize, backhaul, rate limit, and route them as we please. In fact, the VMware SD-WAN business policy at the on-site edge box allows us to send traffic out local Chinese internet, up to AireSpring data center, and then out to Chinese internet, or backhaul some or all of it to Los Angeles, out American internet, or anywhere else in the world that we want, even to customers, headquarters, data centers, etc. Simply amazing how we partnered our VPN with VMware's SD-WAN technology to do this. Next slide, Ellen. So let's talk about differentiators when using AireSpring powered by VMware SD-WAN versus, well, everyone else, right? First off, we have IP mobility. That is the ability to deliver public internet IP addresses to any physical or virtual SD-WAN appliance from our AireSpring data center. That means that the IP address, your firewall, SIP trunk, point-to-point VPN connection, remote user VPN connections, and much more never changes when circuits go up or down, or even if you relocate the box to another office, city, country, or cloud. No more complicated migration strategy for your customers, right? And think about what firewalls would do if your IP address had to change because your circuit went down. And that's where you're getting your IP addresses, right, from the circuit. That's, by internet, you get a circuit, you get IPs. It'd have to change to the IP of another circuit when the first circuit goes down. And when it does that, it will flush what's called its state table and drop all of your voice and data connections. Who needs that, right? Meanwhile, we've noticed that most network trouble happens in the first 3 or 4 hops. By allowing you to get to any internet destination by first enhancing that traffic with SD-WAN at least 3/4 of the way there, call that 3/4 protection, then you get a user and application experience that is 10 times better. We achieve this by having VMware SD-WAN enhance the traffic from the edge box of the customer site up to the VMware gateways and our AireSpring data centers worldwide, and then out to the raw internet. So even if you're not using our hosted phones, our SIP trunks from AireSpring, and you should, I mean, we do 6 billion SIP phone calls a month. There's only 8.6 billion people on the planet, so almost everybody makes a phone call on us every month. The experience is vastly improved because you're now guarding against dropped packets, jitter, out of sequence packets, and more. And a lot of the trouble that you have, that I mentioned earlier, is in the first 3 or 4 hops. So if you can send it up to our data center and then out to the internet, the experience is vastly improved. Another differentiator is that out of 41 plus SD-WAN vendors in the market, VMware SD-WAN is the only packet-based solution. All others are session-based. If you're not packet-based, there's a lot of things you can't do. You can't fail over in 2 milliseconds. You can't aggregate circuit bandwidths together. You're stuck with session-based round-robin load balancing. It's kind of old school. You can't do link steering and much more. Either packet-based SD-WAN is built into your DNA like VMware is, or you're a completely different animal. It's truly night and day. Anytime you guys want to dive into that deep with customers, let me know. You also can do things like, a lot of boxes can do HA. With VMware, you can do enhanced HA, so you can eliminate a lot of switches when you're trying to connect to multiple ISPs, and then you have to put them into switches so you can make them available to both boxes. You can actually plug those circuits directly into either of the VMware HA boxes, and whichever box is the primary can use all of the circuits simultaneously. They create a link between each other, and you can use those underlay circuits. You can also do clustering, which is kind of a neat concept. So if you have 1,000 offices all going to your data center, you can have up to 8 of the same VMware hardware model basically in a cluster, and it will distribute the inbound connections across those the orchestrator, having the brains there do that for you. So a lot of differentiators if you've got base SD-WAN built into your DNA. Next slide. As a Cisco CCIE and route switch, I can't tell you how many static policies of if this, then that, I've had to configure in my lifetime, but it's a lot. With VMware SD-WAN, I don't have to worry about that nonsense anymore. Sure, the box can do, BGP, OSPF, multicast routing, all that stuff, but the business policy tells the box what my intent is so that it knows what to prioritize, where to send the traffic, and a lot more. In my opinion, it's the future of networking because life is dynamic. Humans certainly are, and our network should reflect that, right? And basically, I think the differentiator here is that there's an artificial intelligence engine. It's not just me creating static policies, being some network guru who knows what every application wants, trying to like read their minds, right? But you have an artificial intelligence engine in VMware SD-WAN that adjusts the performance of your network in real time, 24/7, using a rich set of analytics. Ahmed referred to that earlier as ENI, Edge Network Intelligence, and bottom line, it just works. Also, as you've seen, you can leverage a vast array of services from AireSpring's SD-WAN gateways, such as SIP trunk, cloud connectivity, and more. So as VMware innovates, as AireSpring innovates, you get the best of both worlds using both of our gateways. And soon you'll have all 8 pillars of SASE, and you get one throat to choke or one back to pat from AireSpring. You also get hierarchical views, and coming soon, probably second quarter 2023, the world's very first SD-WAN mobile client. That was the Ananda acquisition that VMware just completed. Everyone else out there is using 40-year-old 1980, IPsec VPN technology, trying to make it look new with their SD-WAN solution. Don't be fooled. Next slide. Last but not least, please know that my team is here to serve you guys. We're in multiple time zones, coast to coast, worldwide. I answer emails 7 days a week, so reach out anytime. Mike.chase@airspring.com. It's always first name dot last name at airspring.com, if you must know. Unless you own the company, then it's Avi, David, and Daniel. We're the launch team that own AireSpring. But we're here to help you guys. And if you go on to worldofairspring.com or you click the link here in this PowerPoint presentation, once I send it out later, you can schedule meetings directly with us, email us. Like I said, you're not bugging me. I answer emails 7 days a week and love what I do here. So thanks for joining. We're going to open it up to Q&A now so you guys can ask questions of either me or Ahmed or anybody on the team.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Mike. Thank you, Ahmed. Very, very well put together presentation. I think you've answered a lot of questions and cleared up some confusions for some people, but we have some writing questions. The first one is about sizing SD-WAN. Are there rules of thumb for sizing SD-WAN? If not, how is right sizing accomplished? Not sure who wants to take that one.
So how is right sizing accomplished? Basically,
Yes.
how we size the boxes is we've got boxes that go from 100 megs all the way up to 10 gigs. And if you do clustering, you can get beyond 10 gigs. Faster boxes, of course, I'm excited that 40 gig, a lot of other stuff will come later. It's on the roadmap. But bottom line, we look at, first of all, what can the box handle? Second, we have something here that's kind of unique at AireSpring, which is called flex licensing, where not all traffic that's going through a box has to be enhanced, right? A lot of it, email, web surfing is pretty robust. It just wants internet. Raw internet is fine, even when it's kind of buggy. The reality is that you want to basically enhance your voice, your video, certain applications, maybe your ERP, system, your payroll system, whatever you've got. And you can basically take that subset of traffic, apply the license to that, because SD-WAN features and enhancements happen up to the license limit. You can have a 100 meg box with a 10 meg license, a 30 meg license. And think about it, 10 megs may not seem like a lot, but when you have a 100K SIP phone call, you can have a whole lot of 100K SIP phone calls before you're going to hit a 10 meg limit, right? And the difference, if you guys remember, many years ago when we started selling this, our competitors had the 100 meg box like the VMware SD-WAN Edge 510, and it was selling, 100 meg box selling for $120 a month. When we came out with that 10 meg license, it was $55 a month. So it saves you a tremendous amount of money. Now, that being said, you do have to think about what goes into the business policy. What do you want enhanced by SD-WAN? So, the reason I guess carriers didn't want to sell in the past is they didn't want to think about it. Maybe they didn't know how it worked. I don't know. But the reality is that you do have to make some adjustments in the business policy to mark, voice, video. Things are important to you, but it's easy to do. The interfaces are very, very intuitive. So that's how we size it. Hardware, software. The last license that you have to consider is how much is going through our gateways. We give you 200 megs for free, by the way. So if we want to encourage you to use our SIP trunks hosted phones and everything else we've done. CWS, you're going to be, I think, blown away by our pricing on cloud web security and a lot of the stuff from VMware. And we're leveraging over 150 gateways worldwide that are 10 milliseconds away from 80% of the world population and 5 milliseconds from all major cloud providers. So just piling on the value and doing it at an extremely competitive price. People find it very hard to compete with you guys in the field when you're quoting our pricing.
Okay, great. Next question. What is the advantage of SD-WAN over MPLS?
Huge advantage. So you're getting MPLS-like quality, but you're not having to pay for MPLS circuits. MPLS circuits was always about, a bunch of CCIEs like me and Ahmed running around in a very expensive data center with very expensive circuits, layer 2 private circuits from point to point, creating this MPLS network, expensive routers and everything else. And that's how the quality of service was delivered, in addition to marking circuits with what they call DSCP 46, for voice and different markings, so that, essentially it got prioritized hop by hop, right? It was a hop by hop technology. What you get with VMware SD-WAN is it's an end-to-end technology, meaning that we can use inferior, broadband, cable modem, whatever you can get, because that's kind of what you're stuck with, is particularly as you branch out around the world. We're in 190 countries selling internet. You get what you can get, and then it doesn't really care, because if you're dropping packets or you're experiencing jitter, which is variability of latency or delay, and out of sequence packets and all these negative network conditions, as I call them, the box will correct those automatically. Back in the day, when Ahmed and I had to do Cisco routers, you would spray and pray. You'd spray the packets out, onto the WAN and pray that they got there. There was nothing that you could do about it. It was a router. It wasn't a traffic improvement device, and that's really what you get, with SD-WAN. So when there's dropped packets, when there's jitter, it will do packet duplication. It will do jitter buffering. It has tools that it can use to improve the traffic. So night and day experience. If you've ever used MPLS and went to SD-WAN, it's awesome. Ahmed, add a few comments, will you?
I want to add just summarized message, like the application performs much better over an SD-WAN connection over the MPLS with the same speed or even less speed than this, because of all of the underlay technologies that the SD-WAN is using to optimize the traffic. So as Mike said, avoiding and eliminating the drops and jitter, all of these techniques improves the application performance. So this is how you make that MPLS move to the SD-WAN as something relevant to the application performance. And this is what the people are concerned about, application performance. This is how you should position it to the customer, something that will optimize and make your application runs better.
And by the way, there was a lot of, SD-WAN versus MPLS when SD-WAN first came out. You never really got that from VMware, because the reality is it can do all that legacy networking stuff, BGP, OSPF, et cetera. And you can't do MPLS unless you have full stack BGP. The box can do it. We connect MPLS circuits into these things, all the time when people are migrating over. And that strategy of how you get from MPLS to SD-WAN while you're migrating is actually very, very easy. We just connect to 2 sites. That way, old network, which is MPLS, can always get to new network, which is SD-WAN. So if you don't have sites that are dual connected on one side of the fence to the other, they just go through one of those sites in order to get one side to the other. Makes it very easy, and then at the end, you can disconnect the last of the MPLS, save a ton of money. Off you go.
Okay, great, thank you. We have a question specifically about the SASE POPs. How many and where are the SASE POPs located? Basic architecture of the POPs as well.
Ahmed?
Yes, we have 150 POPs, Villa Cloud POPs. We are converting a lot of these POPs. I think so far we converted 50. And those are around the world, like in the US, outside of the East, Europe, Middle East, all over the places. So anywhere you go, there will be a SASE POP connecting the users in that location. We choose the best location of the POP to be the closest location to the users. This mainly question for people who are worried about the remote users. Somebody traveling overseas and he wants to access the application that sits somewhere in the data center and back in his data center, how that user is going to be connected. So everywhere you go, you will find a SASE POP around that area. Our number of POPs is more than a lot of other vendors. So, and this is an extremely important fact when you select a cloud cloud services, SASE or non-SASE.
Okay, next question is, and I'm not sure this is worded correctly. But what about the client who says that they are doing WAN using their firewalls and VPNs? How do you push back on a client who says that to you? I don't want SASE, I guess. I'm doing WAN using firewalls and VPNs.
Excellent question.
Yeah, go ahead, Ahmed.
Yeah, everything that you do as an individual services will not be integrated with anything else. So the user will be independent. Think about like any update, anything that you want the firewall to do that this PC is not doing, then you are missing that. In addition to that, think about the CPU cycle on the PC that is going to be consumed because you are running this firewall services. By all means, you can't match what the firewall in the cloud or even on-prem firewall can do for you using the software firewall in the PC. And the PC is designed to run applications, is not mainly designed to run firewalls. So definitely there will be an application performance or a performance in general degradation if you run everything in the client. Go ahead, Mike.
And I would say firewalls, you don't get any QoS, you don't get any quality service of any kind over the internet. The other thing is, if you're not partnered with an ISP that has VMware SD-WAN or some kind of solution where we can deliver public internet IPs to you over SD-WAN, and you're getting them from the circuit and putting them on your firewall, then what's going to happen when the circuit goes down? Your firewall flushes its whole table because it's having to basically map through the NAT table private IPs to the public IP that you're using. When that disappears on the public side, you've got to switch to a different IP. Suddenly it's like me talking to Ellen, and then all of a sudden Ahmed's talking to Ellen. It's not the same conversation, right? So the firewall, that's why they call it the stateful table, because in early firewalls, you would just open a hole, but other people are jumping inbound into that hole. So the reality is that you have to match a conversation one-on-one, and that means source IP address, destination IP address. When your source IP address changes, you're grabbing it from the circuit, you're out of luck. That medieval firewall is going to flush that thing in a millisecond, and you're going to lose all your voice data connections and then have to reestablish them, right? So that's the other thing. But you get quality of experience with SD-WAN over any circuit. You get an IP address because you're working with AireSpring. We can deliver those to you all over the world. It also means when you move in and out of data centers, in and out of clouds, they don't have you where they want you, right? Because you don't have to migrate keys, you don't have to change DNS entries, you don't have to call that third-party VPN provider that it took 3 months to get through their security team and go, hey, I got a new IP address because I'm moving. You never have to do that. Just take the box wherever you're going, physically or virtually, set it up, boom, you're in business again. And all your cloud connectivity, all this other stuff follows you around, not just your IP address. Huge advantages over firewalls.
Okay, well, another follow-on question about speaking of IP addresses. Joanne says, you said IP addresses change in the firewall when the circuit goes down. My circuits have outages. Is it the firewall designer's responsibility to have multiple IP addresses loaded in their firewall to compensate for this? And this is an ongoing issue she has with a client, long-term client.
Yeah, so what used to happen is if you had 2 circuits and you plug them directly into the firewall, you had 2 different IP addresses and 2 different interfaces. And then you had a mechanism, usually called a ping ahead in the firewall, that would basically look for something out on the internet over the primary circuit. And when it couldn't hit that anymore because, you didn't have, after you got rid of TDM, right, and you had Ethernet. Ethernet's always up, even though the path isn't viable. The cable modem went down or something further upstream went down. It was hard to detect. And so you would send a ping, you'd send a packet to some remote destination on the internet to make sure this path was viable. When it wasn't viable, meaning it went down, then you went to the second path. It would change the IP address. And it's at that point that the firewall will flush its state table and you lose all your voice and your data connections. And your phone call drops. I mean, almost immediately within a second or two, you may reestablish, depending on what you're doing. But if you're on like a SIP phone call, it would drop. If you're on a VMware solution, that doesn't happen.
Okay, anything to add to that, Ahmed? If not, I'll move on to the next question.
Please move forward.
Okay, here's a question. Someone has a dilemma. How do you sell SD-WAN to a business that does not want to host any applications inside AireSpring's SD-WAN cloud space?
Yeah, so it's not necessarily the application to exist in the AireSpring infrastructure. It can be anywhere. If you remember the architecture, the AireSpring value add is to bring the traffic in high speed, optimized traffic to all the way to the closest point where the application is. If the application is in the data center, then you're getting end-to-end to your data center SD-WAN traffic. If your application in the cloud, you're getting also, if it is an infrastructure as a service, you're getting it SD-WAN all the way to the virtual SD-WAN and the infrastructure as a service. The third option, if your application is the SaaS application like Office 365 or whatever, you can pass the traffic to the SASE POP, VMware SASE POP, who is physically located on the same data center in Equinix next to the Office 365 application. So having SD-WAN to the doorstep, all the way to the doorstep, eliminates all of the internet issues in the traffic flow and gives you optimized traffic all the way to the doorstep of that application. And that's number 3. But the 2 other cases, you are getting SD-WAN all the way to the application back to your data center or infrastructure as a service as well.
Good point, Ahmed. And what I would add is, and you guys know this to be true, is customers are always saying, oh, I want it like this, I want it like that. And I would tell you that out of all the network devices in my entire career that I've ever touched, and there's been thousands of them, you have the most flexibility with the VMware device, right? Because when you run into regulatory and other situations, these edge boxes can send traffic directly between each other using full AES encryption and a lot of other stuff. So that doesn't have to touch our infrastructure at all. In fact, it's not sending traffic through the gateways unless you're leveraging like VMware CWS or some of the SASE POP features, or you are actually needing to come back to AireSpring's gateways to use our SIP trunks and hosted phones and that sort of thing. If you're sending from your edge site to your data center up to your cloud and all that, we'll never see that traffic. That goes directly from one edge to the other edge, and doesn't have to pass through either of us, VMware or AireSpring at all. And it gives you that kind of flexibility. Like I said earlier with the traffic, we could send, in the China example, we could send directly to Chinese internet to our data center and then out to the internet. In China, we could send it all the way back to American data centers and American internet, or we could call it to a customer's data center or headquartered in Europe if we wanted to. So huge, huge, huge amount of flexibility with the policies and capabilities of this technology.
Excellent.
Okay, we got another question, and then maybe we can see if that's work actually like overtime, but good questions, good and great feedback. So we have a partner who has a client who's on Zscaler, who basically thinks that it's an excellent SASE solution. My question is Zscaler really SASE? And what are the 3 main differences which make the Velos or VMware SASE solution better?
Yes, I can take that, if you don't mind, Mike. The Zscaler is an excellent, it's one of the partners that VMware worked with since a long time, before we get our complete SASE solution. Zscaler solution is an SSE solution. It only addresses the security part of the story. You get a great security services, but the connection that you're gonna use to go to their POP is IPsec tunnel or GRE tunnel. And of course, when you talk about IPsec tunnels over the internet or GRE tunnel over the internet, you are subject to all of the drops, delays, jitter, all of the things that the internet will add, and that definitely will kill the application performance. Maybe you can get good application performance in certain locations, but it's not consistent because that's not an SD-WAN. Now, going to SASE solution that includes SD-WAN in the story, then you get optimized traffic even all the way to the SASE POP. That's the major difference. Zscaler by itself, you go IPsec tunnel. And the IPsec tunnel, by the way, it's established from an SD-WAN device. That's a problem. So if you even SD-WAN device from any vendor to work with Zscaler, the only way to connect to the Zscaler POP is using an IPsec tunnel. And this is where the problem is. Now, having it all under one umbrella, you get SASE and you get them as an integrated solution other than like an individual component that you need to manage them individually. Mike, you want to add anything else?
Yeah, no, those are great points. I think I always look at the competitors, I think, wow, this is crazy because, they try to say, well, we've got the Ferrari of security in the cloud, but how they get to the cloud is, dumpster. I mean, it's really just kind of a trashy connection. Without SD-WAN getting you there, it's kind of like buying a Ferrari in Los Angeles and jumping on the freeway at rush hour. It really doesn't matter when you're driving because you're not getting there quickly or well or anything at all. So, it's just a horrible experience, period. So yeah, I always thought it was kind of funny.
Application performance unpredictable. That's the main answer. You can get it okay from certain locations when there's no internet traffic, but it's unpredictable. So that's the major difference. And again, the users don't see what Zscaler is giving them when they access the applications. They only see the application performance. This is how they judge how good the application is. If they go back home and their traffic is going to the Zscaler and they feel that this traffic is slow or the application is slow, What they are trying to do, they are trying to turn off their VPN connection, going around the security, because this is a major thing for the users. So you can't compromise the application performance because you are providing great security features. That's the message.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Now, the ENI device will help them if they had it. They would see if there is degradation on application performance, right? Yeah.
But they can't fix it because there's no SD-WAN in between.
Got it. Okay, great.
And remember where we are going from. That's the major things. The user originally backhauling his traffic to the data center. He might use SD-WAN to go back to his own data center security services. And now when he goes to Zscaler in the cloud, the Zscaler asks him to come with IPsec tunnel. So from the beginning, there is a compromise for the application performance. The user will say, I would rather go to my own data center, use my own old security devices, because I'm going SD-WAN to it. But now I have to go with the IPsec tunnels. And not only Zscaler, other vendors will have the same exact problem. If you don't have SD-WAN, then this is a killer for application performance.
Yep.
Yeah, it's one thing to see you're having a problem. It's another to do something about it. So that's why I love the presentation Ahmed did earlier, where it's like SD-WAN is the building block for all this other stuff that is here now with SASE. So good point.
Okay. Now, we have a another question. I know it's going to be the final one. This isn't necessarily, it's not specific to the presentation, but this gentleman has some large healthcare customers that are researching the IT equipment architecture suppliers instead of taking incoming solicitations from his firm. Now, he wants to know, is there a sales brochure or website showing specific services that we can provide to hospitals that meet all their technology needs? Any suggestions on what he can do?
We deal with a lot of healthcare. Go ahead, Ahmed. I mean, I'm sure VMware has some materials. What I'll just add real quick is we, from marketing and Ellen's team, we have some great videos on our SD-WAN, global SD-WAN, and an overview of our company in general. They're short. They're only a few minutes. They're very professionally done, easy to watch, and they make some really good points. So if you want those, just email me. I'm happy to send to you, mike.jason@airspring.com. And then on the healthcare side, I mean, VMware's got a huge level of experience with that. Go ahead, Ahmed.
Yeah, for the healthcare, the main reason why would anyone need access from outside, and I worked in the healthcare in the past when I was in Cisco for 10 years. I was like, my major customers were healthcare all the time. They have a lot of data internally about the patients. They have a major problem with HIPAA compliance, because anybody accessing this data who's not healthcare provider, they will break the HIPAA compliance. So they want to give the right access to this data for somebody from outside to do certain services or certain deliverables. Like somebody wants to study the data, how the patients interact internally with their doctor to modernize that thing and create an application out of it to improve the services. Now, if that person accesses extra data than what he needs to, then that's a HIPAA compliance issue. The answer for that is the zero trust network access that I described in the architecture. Once you give that person who sits outside of the organization specific access after authentication process, part of the ZTNA, then you are mapping him to the only application, to the only data that you want him or her to access to do certain things securely without compromising or breaking the HIPAA compliance.
Okay, very good. Okay,
by the way, just a quick comment, that mobile client that's coming out is going to be really key, because what we've already seen with SD-WAN is when you have large healthcare campuses, right, and you have a lot of remote physicians, sometimes they have to get an expert from across the country or out of the country, and you see a trend where, okay, now you're putting these SD-WAN boxes into the homes of these doctors and into their offices and into the different hospitals facilities. How great to have in the world's first SD-WAN mobile client, where they just need their laptop and they can have a quality MPLS-like connection over anything and look at the X-ray images, other scanned images and so forth. Whereas otherwise, they'd have to go to an office or somewhere to get a quality connection to look at this and get their opinion. And of course, in healthcare, lives matter. Every second counts, right? So when they can do that from a laptop or from a phone and have a quality connection enhanced by SD-WAN, that's incredible.